What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Space Arena Ground Arena. It's been a while since we had a deck tech video, but Legends of the Force is right around the corner. Everybody's in Worlds or Galactic Championship prep. We started messing with some set 5 stuff just like everybody else, and I'm going to start throwing out some deck techs. I'm going to try to do written versions for all the videos we do. So I have a couple lined up. This is going to be the first one. This is Supreme Leader Snoke. We're going to do it like I always do it. Got a little bit of an agenda, the overview, talk about the leader, the general game plan, some Legends stuff, the craving of power, right? Like any good would-be Sith. The sauce of the deck and the sideboard. So general overview of the deck, here it is. So, yeah, some old stuff, some new stuff, some good stuff, some stuff I want to highlight. Force Throw, obviously, is not good early game. That's more of a late game card. Snoke has Force. And then Vader, Maul, Palpatine all have Force. So this is more of a late game card for us. You could swap it out if you aren't a fan. The early game, we'll talk about it, but you are looking to play either like 2 1-drops or a 1-drop and a buff. Having a 4-2 on the board turn 1 is pretty solid. And yeah, also Kylo's Silencer is also an acceptable 1-drop. So we have 9 turn 1 plays. Some people will be like, oh, that's not enough. 9's fine. 9 to 12 is generally what I shoot for. Knight of Ren is a really solid turn 2 plays of 4-4. Then you can see we're running phase 3 and the Praetorian Guard. Praetorian Guard we'll talk about a little more. Running, the ramp of Super Laser Tech and Resupply. Gotta have Overwhelming Barrage. Ruthless Raider is really good still, so that's in here. Running 3 Power per turn, so we can return some Ruthless Raiders and Vaders and Mauls and Palps. Oh my. And then at the top, we're looking at Reinforcement Walker, because that gives us some card draw and potential healing. And then Crate Dragon, because it's Crate Dragon. If we get there, we get there. And then you can see in the sideboard, we got HK, Disabling Fang Fighters, Bombing Runs, and Reinforcements. We'll talk about him. So the leader, Snoke, what does he do? Well, for 1 resource, you can exhaust him and give an experience token to the unit with the most power of your friendly villainy units. So this does not work on cards that do not have the villainy aspect. So if it's just aggression or just command, you cannot buff those units. And then on 6 resources, he deploys and he becomes a 4/7, and he has the same ability, but it's on attack instead of 1 resource and exhausting. So we've seen the, hey, give an experience token to a unit a couple times now. We've seen it with Rey, where you give it to somebody with less than 3 power. We've seen it with Tarkin, giving it to a specific traded unit. Snoke, he does something similar, but he does it different. And I think he's like a better finisher. He's a better unit on the board than definitely Tarkin. Rey's debatable because a 3/7 with Restore is very good. But Snoke, where these other leaders get removed, I feel like Snoke's just a little more powerful. And he buffs himself a lot, and he can become an unstoppable force for your opponents at times. So, and then Force, First Order, and Official Traits. So the general game plan is pretty easy. It's a mid-range deck. We want to play under curve sometimes, not always, but maybe, to buff units. We want to make them stronger than what they're printed to be. We want to play our ground sentinels and continue to buff. We want to clear the board by trading with our better statted units, and then we're going to close the door with Vader, Mauls, and Palpatines. Oh my. So some new Legends of the Force stuff that's pretty exciting is one's the Knight of Ren. It's a 3-cost 4/4 First Order. It's a vanilla, meaning it doesn't have any game text, so it gets a little more stats. But you can see it combos right away with the Praetorian Guard, which is a 3-cost 2/5, and while you control a unit with 4 or more power, it gains Sentinel. So we were buffing with Snoke. We're giving our Praetorian Guard Sentinel. If you buff itself to 4, it will give itself Sentinel. But these are 2 new cards from this set that work well in this deck, and they're right at the beginning of our game. Craving Power. I think this card is kind of cracked. So it seems expensive as a 5 cost that only gives +2/+2, but the when played effect on this thing to do damage to an enemy unit equal to this unit's power, attached unit's power, is kind of cracked because it's basically a delete button for anything that doesn't have a shield on it. I played like half a dozen games earlier with this. Played against Kira, played against Aiden, played against Quinlan, and every time I played Craving Power, it just deleted something. I deleted leaders, I deleted devastators, just all kinds of stuff. A good buff and a delete button. So this is like almost, I don't know, it's not like, it's almost like a mini devastator effect, the 10-drop devastator. It's almost kind of like that attached to an upgrade. I mean, you play this on Snoke the turn he deploys, and you're dealing like 7 damage to anything. But yeah, this is good for deleting problem units. Craving Power, I think, is kind of cracked and will probably end up being a 3 of at some point. So I think it does a lot for the cost, even though it just gives +2/+2. It's a delete button, and it's a good way, since we don't have a lot of space units, for us to attach it to a buff our ground unit and use it to delete space units. So the sauce, Mauls and Vaders, they're really good 7-drops. We got Overwhelming Barrage to clear board space, and we got Palpatine's Return, so we can keep replaying the Mauls and Vaders, since they do have ambush and they are powerful. And they do get traded into a lot after they do their thing. So having Palp's Return so we can replay the Mauls and the Vaders and the Ruthless Raiders just helps this deck, especially against control matchups. And then Crate's just really good. Sideboard options, got 2 copies of HK-47. Bringing this in against aggro matchups, since we're trying to trade into and defeat our opponent's units. We can deal damage to the base while doing it. And HK is a villainy unit, so he is available to be buffed by Snoke. Disabling Fangfighter sadly cannot be buffed by Snoke, but when played, we can defeat an upgrade. 2 of these in here. Obviously, this is to put in and remove upgrades, so pilot decks, stuff like that. Timely Reinforcements and Bombing Run are both in here because we're only running 6 space units in the main deck. This deck is very susceptible to the space race if we don't see Overwhelming Barrages, if our Craving Powers are too late, if we don't see our Palpatine. So having Timely Reinforcements and Bombing Runs as other ways to deal with space race decks, that's why those are here. So that's the sideboard. Here's another look at the cards in the deck. General game plan. Well, let's talk about the event package. We already kind of talked about it, but we're definitely running Resupply. The Force Throw we talked about is more of a late game card. And then the Barrages, our main removal spell. And then Craving Power is our other one. That's an upgrade. Palpatine's, when played, is a removal spell. Maul's Ambush, most times, is a removal spell. So we're getting our board control through our units most of the time. Barrage is really the only way around that. And Craving Power. You see, I kind of have notes written down here. I want to make sure we don't miss anything. I think we talked about everything. Vader, his when played, we have a lot of good targets. You can pull 3 Stormtroopers, you can pull Kylo's Tie and a Stormtrooper, you can pull a Knight of Ren, or most of the time you're going to be pulling a Phase 3 Dark Trooper or a Praetorian Guard. You pull the Guard, you have Vader in play, which has more than 4 power, so obviously you are going to get the Sentinel right away. But Snoke, he's been a lot of fun. He's much stronger than I initially thought he was going to be. I thought he was just going to be a worse Tarkin, and that turns out to not be the case. He is performing very well in the early stages of our testing in red with this kind of Palpatine. Palpatine really helps clear the board, and the Stormtroopers that we can start early, and the 1-drops help fill the curve. You can play one early and buff it and just start your buff train going. And then once you deploy Snoke and you start, and he buffs himself once or twice and is clearing units, and then you crave power with him or barrage with him, and he's barraging for 7 and 9, it kind of gets addicting to what you can pull off with Snoke. And like I said, just today, probably half dozen games one against Kira, one against Quinlan, one against Iden. Then there was like a Kit Fisto. What else did I play today? Anakin. So playing some like Quinlan and Kira, those are good decks. And Snoke's been performing well into those decks as well. So I think he has some play more than I thought he would. And this is the first deck tech for me for Legends of the Force. So hopefully you guys take this, give it a shot. I will unlist it in the DB and share the link in the video so you guys can grab the deck link and go have fun with it. But yeah, we will see you in the arenas.